of an ever-changing world, sustainable construction has slowly climbed up to become one of the most crucial practices in the industry. Achieving this has not been easy. However, thanks to innovative solutions and partnerships, the construction sector has now been able to gradually improve and achieve its net zero goals. Here with me today is a very special guest, the Group Technical Director of Terraco, based in Terraco's Technical Center, John Carey. Thank you very much for joining us here today. It is a pleasure to have you here at the studios.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Before we jump right into the questions and before we get started, could you start by giving us a short update on how are things going at Terraco? How has the business sort of recovered and is still currently recovering from the downtime that was the pandemic?
Actually, we had a very easy time through the pandemic, which was very unusual in that most of our locations had very well systems in place to ensure that things from a production point of view went very smoothly. And from a customer base, we had our difficulties, but we came through very smoothly. Everyone in the company, normally I was spending 120 days a year plus traveling, and that went to zero.
Right.
So Zoom played a very important part during that process. We all learned how to work differently. So we definitely got through it, hopefully better for it.
As for my first question today, I'm going to talk about innovation. Innovation is quite crucial for any company's growth, but I think more so for Terraco, as the company is very focused on catering to the changing needs of your customers. So with regards to this, how is innovation aiding the company's growth, in your opinion?
Of course, innovation for us is the lifeblood of the company. It plays a central role in all of our locations. And particularly with regard to product development, we look on ourselves as a solution provider and providing solutions to construction problems. And as we move forward, that involves more and more innovation. We have lots of product groups that innovation is kind of a central tenet. Our two biggest product groups, the first being ready-mix surface preparation products. By name, the product group is HandyCode, and that, in essence, has lots of different innovative aspects to the product in terms of its quality of the basic product, how it's used, the product in comparison to traditional surface preparation products. Another innovative product system, you can say, would be our Terraco EIFS.
Yes,
where we are constantly innovating to give more options to the client, more finishing options, as well as systems that reduce the number of coats in the installation process, thereby reducing the overall cost of the system. And this is a constant process.
So I'm really glad that you mentioned being environmentally friendly in Terraco, because my next question relates to that, which is global warming. Global warming has been a persisting issue, for a few years now, and luckily there are many solutions created by the construction sector in helping this. So how is Terraco EIFS helping green building in the region?
I mean, when you talk about Terraco EIFS in relation to global warming, global warming is a very urgent issue, and it's not something we can leave till tomorrow. It has to be addressed today. EIFS has a place to play in that, as does a lot of other interventions in the construction to improve the energy efficiency. Like, why would you use EIFS? I mean, EIFS, in essence, the benefits are that it's so usable for multiple applications. You can you can use it for old buildings, you can use it for new buildings, you can use it to reduce heating costs, you can use it to reduce cooling costs. And that is in the extreme. We have applications done in Dubai, which is probably as hot as it gets.
Yeah.
And we have applications done in Siberia, where it's probably as cold as it gets. And all in between, you know. In Europe, you have very damp, mild climates, which is probably the most difficult to deal with. But in general, Terraco EIFS deals with all of them very well. Another aspect of Terraco EIFS is the history of it. We have been installing EIFS systems since the mid-90s. In Dubai, we started around 2000 to push EIFS into the market. Initially, people didn't accept that as a potential finish because they considered that it was only for cold countries. Yeah. Right. But it's proved to be actually even more efficient for reducing the cost of cooling. So over those years, we have done approximately 200 million square meters of EIFS, which is a good reference base to have, and it really gives confidence to our customers that we have the experience of all those different climates.
So the Middle East is undoubtedly a hub of change, but the good news is there's also many developments that are sprouting up, a lot of older and new developments. And you've mentioned also earlier that Terraco EIFS doesn't only work on new buildings, but also older buildings. So my next question to you is, what is the future of renovation, specifically in the Middle East? And as well, is retrofitting going to be the new norm?
To retrofitting, we would hope that it will be the new norm. And I think the objective of many peoples would be to see or to help that it could become the new norm. Energy saving should be the central part in any renovation system. The reason for that is that existing houses represents approximately 90% of the housing stock. So when you talk about new housing, which are relatively well insulated, they only represent about 10% of the housing stock. And they actually consume only about 20% of what old housing consumes in terms of units. So most older buildings, particularly in this part of the world, are grossly under-insulated or even uninsulated, right? So in terms of their consumption of electricity, it's extremely high. To be able to retrofit them is absolutely essential to guarantee that governments can meet their obligations with regard to the Paris Agreement and the COP26 obligations.
And what do you think about the future of renovation in the Middle East? Does it tie in with also achieving energy savings?
It must, yeah. I mean, if you look at what's happening in other countries, I mean, Europe went through this process, and like through the noughties, they were trying this system and trying that system, trying all sorts of different systems. Many of them failed. But over the last 10 years, most European countries have got systems in place now that are extremely functional and working well. So there's a good database and benchmarks already in place in other countries that governments in this part of the world can rely on and see what works and what doesn't work. What is the most important thing when it comes to retrofitting buildings is legislation. It has to be government-led. Yeah. People are not going to go out and insulate their houses in mass because it really has to be done en masse to have any effect. It's basically down to the governments to legislate for that. Now, a system of renovating and retrofitting houses has to have several components. The first part of that is energy rating certificates for buildings, right? So if a building has an energy rating certificate, somebody who wants to rent it or somebody who wants to buy it can see exactly what the energy consumption is in the building. And that has a direct effect on the value of the building and also the rent of the building.
Right.
If you know a building is going to cost you so much more to heat, obviously you don't want to pay as much rent for it. And likewise, if you want to buy the building, you're going to offer a lower price if you know that you're going to need to spend so much money to bring it up to regulations. I mean, in Europe, the energy rating system is, they rate the buildings from A to G, and a building with a rating of A1 has an energy consumption of less than 25 kilowatt hours per square meter per year. I know that sounds complicated, but a building with a G rating has an energy consumption greater than 450 kilowatt hours per square meter per year. So a highly efficient building, and when we talked about the new builds, they're all in the Bs, some of them in the As.
Right.
So the energy consumption will be definitely probably less than 120 kilowatts.
But what about the buildings here in the UAE? Are they also
UAE,
falling into
the uninsulated buildings like villas would have an energy rating less of G. In other words, they would be consuming 450 kilowatt hours per square meter per year, which is huge.
Yeah.
So addressing that goes a long way to saving electricity. Now, the other elements that are required for a retrofitting system to be in play, apart from the building energy rating certificates, would be incentivization. Right. If you don't incentivize the house owner to upgrade his facility, he's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Now, every country in Europe has schemes that are a little bit different from each other. Some work better than others, but they all, in essence, work to a lesser or greater degree. And of course, then the last and one of the most important things is that the products and systems that are used are properly certified. So in UAE today, they have a good handle on that.
Yeah.
Products are certified and they have good procedures in place to ensure that they're... and then the other aspect is the installers. The installers have to be properly trained to avoid having problems with the installations.
So you've mentioned retrofitting in residentials and villas in different countries and in the UAE, but how will retrofitting also tie into the industrial sector here?
Retrofitting, of course, in the industrial sector will be important as well, but it kind of pales into insignificance in relation to the housing sector. As we said earlier, generally when you look at housing in UAE, the energy consumption is already huge. It's G rated, probably like 500 kilowatt hours per square meter, which is a phenomenal amount. You don't see that type of energy consumption.
Do you think the weather has something to do with this, or it's just mainly
Absolutely. I mean, you have the types of constructions that are done. They're solid wall systems with a solid slab. So you have a huge surface area of wall and a huge surface area of roof, and this doesn't have any insulation. So when the sun is baking down on these surfaces, they actually act as like a radiator, and you have to run the the cooling systems 24/7 just to keep the temperature at an acceptable level. You turn off the air conditioning, the temperature goes through the roof. With an EIFS system, like for example, my house, I have EIFS on my house. You get a comfort factor, which we also should talk about. When the temperature is constant through day and night, 20 degrees, and our heating systems only have to be on for maybe 4 hours a day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. The temperature doesn't change. You go to bed at night, the temperature is 20 degrees, no heating on. You get up in the morning, it's 19 degrees. It's very, very stable.
So my next question will circle around the topic of modular construction, which is a method of construction that's becoming more popularized in the Middle Eastern region for achieving many efficiencies. So my question is, in relation to this, how do you think modular construction is changing the landscape in the region?
Modular construction, of course, is very important in multiple areas, in high labor cost areas, in areas where they have fast construction systems like in Dubai. And why does it work? It works because you're basically industrializing the construction process. You're putting it into a factory, you're making it in controlled environments, you're using machinery rather than workers to apply products. You can do multiple code applications in a factory environment, so you get better utilization of resources, better quality control, and ultimately you get a better quality product at the end of the day at a reduced cost. Where does Terraco come into this? Because we have a regionalized technical system and R&D system, we have the ability to create bespoke solutions for the modular customers. A modular customer basically is running a factory, and he's putting a certain process through his factory. So he wants to achieve optimum performance of that factory. Like if he's applying a multiple layer of products to create a finish, he wants those finishes to dry quickly, to cure quickly, and this is where Terraco can come in. We can come in and we can give him a bespoke product that will achieve what he requires and, improve his throughput, and then at the same time give the type of performance that's required for the end product at its end point of use.
So, John, I'm glad that you mentioned bespoke solutions, because my last question ties in directly into this, which is what are some product developments that Terraco is currently working on at the moment? Basically, what is keeping and what will keep Terraco busy for the next few years?
Our R&D program, product development program across the group, is handled across multiple geographies. We're a relatively small company, but we're actually a multinational company. So we have R&D activities going on in multiple countries, and these are all joint projects. So, we'd have chemists working on a project in Dubai, in China, in Korea, and then, sharing the results. So what this does for us is it gives us the ability to have an aggregated R&D facility, which benefits both the big members and the smaller members of the group, and then likewise true to their customer bases. So the customers can benefit from this global approach towards R&D. In many companies, R&D is very much compartmentalized, and what's happening in Europe and what's happening in China, etc., are normally not shared. Our approach towards R&D is completely different. We have a global approach towards it, and we share information. Our chemists and our technical people meet regularly. We have an innovative process for R&D projects. You asked particularly with regard to what projects keep us busy. I could spend an hour explaining the projects that are keeping us busy, but we have at least 20 or 25 projects on the go at any one time. They range from new innovations in EIFS to new developments in flooring solutions. We have big developments in our flooring solutions. So this is basically what we can achieve with having that kind of global approach towards R&D.
And I think that wraps it up. Thank you so much again for sharing with us what Terraco is up to. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you and have this discussion about retrofitting and global warming and modular construction as well. And so, thank you everyone again for joining in with us today. I am with John Carey from Terraco. If you like today's episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. And also be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms for more expert interviews like this one. This has been reporter Julian Tolentino from Construction Week Middle East. Stay tuned.